Hi, this is George Alger. Welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today we're going to be speaking about age and attitude. And joining us is Lance Miller, who is an international speaker and the CEO of a sustainable technology company. And like me, he's also an old guy. Welcome, Lance. What can you tell us about age and attitude?
Well, George, I want to compliment you. You're the first person that's ever introduced me as an old guy. So thank you for that. So for the benefit,
No one else will believe it, though.
for the benefit of the audience, yeah, I just had my 66th birthday, we're talking before the show, which pains me. How did that happen? I don't know. How did that happen? That was for other people. But no, it's interesting. I think our viewpoint on life really determines so much, and our attitude towards our life. And I had an uncle who was a senior test pilot out at Edwards Air Force Base, and he was a peer of Chuck Yeager's. And he and Chuck Yeager were the only two test pilots that didn't have a college degree. And he had some real bumps in his career and some things that happened. And I asked him about it one time. He says, Lance, there's something I learned in flying. Your attitude determines your altitude. And when you fly, the attitude of the plane, if it's a positive attitude, you're going to continue to climb if your attitude's going down. And he always maintained a really positive attitude. And I knew his name was Joe Cotton. I knew him until his 90s. And he was just a joy to be around because every time I got with him, he was just excited to talk about things and excited to hear from you. And there was a great attitude of living. And one of the things I do in my life, and this came from going through my younger years when I was, say, in my 30s, and I was struggling with things, and I had jobs I didn't like, and things weren't going well. I'd wake up in the morning sometimes, and I would just go, it wasn't that I was tired. I just didn't want to go out and face what was going on. And I started to realize there are sort of two conditions I could have in life. One of them was living, so we need to dig into a little bit more. The other one is existing. And I give myself a test every morning when I wake up. No matter how tired I am I more excited to get out of bed and go do what I'm going to go do? Or would I rather stay in bed and not confront it? You know, it's like I just pull the covers back up over my head. And that, to me, is that test to make sure I'm on the living path in life. And just on that whole concept of living, everybody's looking for the meaning of life, and they're going climbing mountaintops and talking to gurus. And I go, well, the meaning of life, it should be in the dictionary. So I do deep dives on words, and I dug into the meaning of life, and I looked at all the definitions of it, which it had to do a lot with how long something could fulfill its purpose, like the life of a car, the life of a computer. It could fulfill its purpose during that time. And it wasn't just the organic existence between birth and death. There was more to it. And then you had idioms like that's the life of the party, or the person says, I feel like I have no life. And you go down and look at the etymology of where it comes from. When I pulled all that together, I came up with my definition of life. And I think probably a better definition is the definition of living, which is imbuing energy into my purpose. And I had somebody when I was in my late 20s say, imagine the best day you ever had. And he looked at me and goes, then imagine every day of your life being like that. And I couldn't, because there was all this stuff going on that I didn't want going on in my life. But I sat down and looked at the best days I had, and I go, what was the difference between those and the worst days? And I was putting energy into my purpose. I was doing stuff I loved to do, that I wanted to do, and I was being successful at it, and I felt alive. And so that's when I talk about an attitude, it's like maintaining your purpose in life and maintaining putting energy into it. And those things shift, as we go through life, as we get older, they change. And so, a lot of times, like as you age, a lot of times you want to see your children or your grandchildren. Your purpose is to see them doing really well or passing knowledge on to them. You may enjoy a quiet walk on the beach watching the sunset versus an 80-mile bicycle ride. But you have to look at, well, what are my purposes? What am I trying to accomplish here? And then I can dive into purpose. But that's the biggest thing. I think keeping a really great attitude. And the other thing before I let you talk again, there's another thing that had a huge influence on me. Back in the 90s, I think it was, when the Chicken Soup for the Soul books came out, there was a story about a gentleman named Walt Jones. And I remember that story so well. Walt had his 100th birthday on the Johnny Carson show. And in the interview, he said, everybody's worried about having another birthday. I'm worried about not having one. But then he said something that I think really summarizes this whole idea of attitude and aging. He said, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
Mm.
Because we have a chronological age. And I don't feel I'm my chronological age. I feel I'm a lot younger than that chronological age. But how old would I be if I didn't know how old I was? Well, I'm not going to say I'm going to be 18, but I'd probably be 45 or 50. That's how I feel. But that has to do with my attitude. And that's something I fall back on a lot. How old would I be if I didn't know how old I was? Because it's easy, man, it's easy to look at that number and go, that's me. You got to be kidding me. Well, how old would I be if I didn't know how old I was? Okay, good. That really sums up to me the attitude you have towards aging, that I had towards aging or towards life.
Very good. From a practical perspective, for someone who's getting older and they're having problems, let's say it's health problems, let's say it's financial problems, but basically they're really challenged and they're perhaps more concerned about just surviving than their purpose. Do you have any thoughts regarding helping a person change their attitude?
Well, first of all, I think what we have to do is look at, if they're more concerned about surviving, their purpose becomes that. So it's not like I have this purpose over here, but I have to survive. No, my purpose is to survive. And let me just talk about that. The root word of purpose is the word propose. What do you propose? Well, I propose I'm healthy. I propose I'm financially sound. I propose I have a nice place to live. Those become my purposes. So let's put energy into surviving. Let's put energy into doing that. First of all, I would say there's a whole concept of what I call an attainable goal. A lot of times they have goals out there and I don't know that, like I need to lose 70 pounds and, I need to put $200,000 in the bank. And I was like, that just doesn't seem to be attainable right now. Okay, well, great. Can I lose 2 pounds? And can I put $2,000 in the bank? That's attainable. And there's a whole story I have with a speaker I know named Mark Eaton. And Mark was a basketball player for the Utah Jazz. And when he joined the team, they were losing games by like 12 points. And the coach didn't try to turn the team around by getting him to win games. He said, let's see if we can lose a game by 10 points. He said, let's see if we can lose a game by 8 points. And he goes, they started losing by 10, losing by 8. And he's like, great. We only lost it by 8. He said, by the time we get down to 6, we said, this is ridiculous. Let's win the game. But what he did, he got them winning by attaining achievable goals. And that's one of the things that I'll look at in my life quite a bit because I've got a lot going on. I'm CEO of a major international company. I speak all over the world. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I got a call pulling me out of bed for a conference in Saudi Arabia. Somebody wants me to bring in too. And I didn't have the nerve to tell them. I said, well, I've got a new rule on that. And this comes into aging. I used to fly economy or coach all the time. I said, nah, if I'm going that far, you're buying a business class ticket for me. I got to be able to function, and that's a matter of age. And it's a matter of being able to walk away from something. I don't want to sit and coach for 18 hours getting over there. I said, I'm not, it's going to take me 2 days to recover. So to answer your question, to go full circle on that, it's just, let's come up with an attainable goal. Let's come up with a first step. And I've had a number of situations, major situations in my life. I was trying to solve the whole thing before I moved. And actually, I had one about 4 months ago that I'd been struggling with for a number of years, trying to get a relationship situation handled and some, in some business environments. And it was not going well. We were trying to avoid, litigation on things, stuff like that. And I was talking to a friend of mine and they just said, well, the next step would be to do this. And I went, I'm sitting there trying to solve the whole thing. I go, I just need to take the next step. And I took the next step and everything started to roll with the next step instead of me having the whole solution out there. So if you're not healthy, take the next step tomorrow and do something. Go walk around the block, throw out your sugar-based carbonated soda drinks and go get some orange juice. Whatever you can do to take that next step. Financially, that's a big one, but look at what you can do to take the next step on your finances. Maybe it is going out and getting a different job or another job, or actually the first step could be just doing a really good assessment and knowing where you are and putting a plan together. That's the first step. But do an attainable goal. That's what I would. That's the.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Lance. We're out of time here. It's going to wrap things up. This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.